Hello, Yaron.
Hello, Ben. How are you?
Good, I'm good. How are you?
Very good, thanks.
And everybody, welcome to our monthly webinar. It's nice to see a lot of people that came to watch us today. And we have a really special webinar today. We're going to talk about, of course, the markets. We're going to talk about leading sectors and where the market's going to be and where the AI is actually being the market in the next few weeks and months. We're going to talk about a little bit of past predictions. We're going to learn how to use the algorithm actually to identify opportunities in the market. And we have a really special, interesting webinar today. We're going to talk about a little bit the war between China and the US. And it's going to be interesting. And we're going to start in a few more minutes. We just want to wait that everybody is going to be here. Like the later is going to be here any minute now. We can see still people joining, so we're going to start right away. And meanwhile, we have two questions for you, right, Yaron?
Yes.
The first one is actually which stock that we talked about in the last webinar actually performed more than 100% in the past month. And the second question, you can, by the way, write us in the Q&A your answers, and then we'll tell you if you're right or wrong. The second question is which sector from the beginning of 2025 has the best performance so far? Uh, and don't check it on Google. Let's see if you have self-knowledge. So write us in the Q&A and let us know what do you think are the answers for both questions. And we're going to talk about it through the webinar right away. And another quick disclaimer that we have to say, of course, that this webinar does not actually provide a personal investment or financial advice or act as personal, financial, legal, institutional investment advisor or individually advocate the purchase or sale of any security or investment to use at any particular financial strategy. All investing, stock forecast, and investment strategies include the risk of loss for some or even all of your capital. So before pursuing any financial strategy discussed on this webinar, you should always consult with licensed financial advisor. And remember that. And we are going to start in 1 minute, I think, right?
Yes, Ben, I don't see answers so far. So many answers.
Yeah, let them warm up a little bit.
Okay, okay.
Maybe we'll repeat the two questions. The first question, which stock that we talked about in the last webinar has performed more than 100% in the current month? And which three best sectors for 2000 year to date for this year 2025 has performed the best from the main sectors in the US? Let's focus it on the main 11 sectors from the Geeks level 1, right? What do you think in the Q&A? And we'll talk about it soon. And if you have any question during the webinar, or you have any interesting thing that you want to ask us, or you don't understand anything, please feel free to ask us through the Q&A, and we'll try to answer it as soon as we can. So please feel free to do so. Okay, I
Okay, I
see a
see
lot of
some
people today.
answers, some interesting answers. Yeah, as Ben mentioned, please use the Q&A window in order to communicate with us. We are trying to to answer to as many questions as possible.
All right. So we're good to go.
Yes. Yes, we are good to go. So let's start. Let's start then. Okay, welcome to the I Know First webinar. In this webinar today, we are going to talk about artificial intelligence, how it's possible to utilize artificial intelligence in order to identify opportunities in the market. We are going to talk about the market. We have very interesting market right now. We do see many opportunities actually, and we are going to discuss them in this webinar. Before jumping directly to what's going on in the market right now, we will provide some kind of introduction of I Know First, what we are doing, and about the team. So I Know First, we are an AI company. Our main solution is a predictive algorithm that generates daily forecast for the financial markets and identifies the most promising investment opportunities. We are utilizing artificial neural networks, deep learning, genetic algorithms to predict the financial market. Our predictive algorithm is generating daily forecast for over 13,500 assets from different asset classes, including equities, indices, ETFs, commodities, currencies, cryptocurrencies, with daily forecast for multiple time frames, short-term, mid-term, and also long-term. This is a global solution. We are covering over 50 global stock exchanges, including the stock exchanges in the US, Canada, Europe, Asia, and more. Of course, the main focus is in the US market.
Yes, and we have already the first answer for the first question. What you see here is a short frame from the last webinar. We gave you what the algorithm thought of the next few days, 7 days and 14 days, best stocks. We gave you just the first two, and we can see that BITF, which is Bitfarm, the Bitcoin mining company that actually relies on renewable energy, has jumped more than 142% since the last webinar. And we can also find the CIFR, which is Cipher Mining, but doing actually the same thing, actually Bitcoin mining with efficient energy operations, and that stock jumped over 86% in the last month. And we also presented a negative stock with a negative signal that we can find here in the bottom of this forecast, XBIT, which actually performed minus almost 10% in the last month. So we can see the positive signal actually did a really good performance, while the negative one performed also well, that went into the negative direction. Another thing that we showed you in our last webinar was the stock APLD that also jumped by almost 100% actually from our last webinar, and that also I think really impressive in the last volatile month that we have. And so that's a quick overlook from our last webinar, and the stock that the algorithm actually presented to be the best for the next few days and weeks. And this is actually part of a forecast that we can see here that was also generated on 15th of September, that was sent to our clients. We can find here stocks such as, again, Bitfarms. We can find FTL that jumped to 55%. We talked about CFAR, and we talked about APLD. Also, Iran, also clean energy Bitcoin mining company. We can also find the ONDOS that that actually provides wireless data networks, interesting stock as well, and many other stocks that actually outperform by far the S&P performance that we see is standing on 1.32. The average of this specific forecast was 64% in the last month, and I think it's kind of crazy for a forecast of algorithmic forecast. And another small forecast that we showed you in our last webinar was those two stocks from the semiconductor universe. We show you AMU and LRCX. Both of them jumped by 24% and 11.5% in the last month. So this is like a quick overview from our last webinar. And we also talked in the end of the webinar, if you can recall, about the best sectors that the algorithms see for the following month. And we saw that in this specific forecast, we had XME on the top of this forecast. XME is the metal and mining company and ETF that jumped almost by 13%. We also saw the stocks, the semiconductors, and the XSD, the equal weight semiconductors ETF, that also jumped by 8 and 7%. We also find the CAN, the clean energy ETF, that jumped by almost 8%, and BUZZ and aerospace and defense, as we can see here, that almost performed 4%. All this while the S&P in the last month performed around 0.1%. So the majority of the ETFs and the sectors that you see here is actually outperformed the S&P. And we're going to do it as well today. At the end of the webinar, we're going to show you a live updated forecast for the following month, what the algorithm thinks about the best sectors, the best ETFs to hold for the following month. So stay tuned to the end of the webinar, and we'll show you the results of that forecast.
Okay, the IKnowFirst predictive algorithm was developed by our R&D team that being led by Dr. Lipa Reutemann from the Weizmann Institute of Science, one of the leading experts in the field of artificial intelligence, machine learning, artificial neural networks, with over 20 years of experience. Dr. Reutemann is leading our R&D team that includes PhDs, AI and machine learning experts. We have MER professor from Tel Aviv University, as well as employees with the background of data science, math, statistics. The webinar today is going to be led by Ben Rubin, Dr. Ben Rubin, not yet. Ben, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Ben Rubin. I'm the head of advisory here at IKnowFirst. I also worked as a financial advisor in one of the leading banks here in Israel for several years. And I will be leading this webinar today.
My name is Yaron Golder. I'm the CEO and the co-founder of IKnowFirst, together with Dr. Reutemann. I'm also lecturing at one of the leading universities in Israel in the field of AI and fintech. I'm an engineer with EMBA. And in terms of the traction and the clients of IKnowFirst, currently we are working with the world's leading hedge funds, investment houses, banks, family offices, as well as private investors from all over the world. In this list, you can find leading hedge funds, leading banks, leading investment houses, and also family offices. With some of the entities here, we have also built AI-powered products that are being listed in different stock exchanges around the globe. In this list, you can find also prop companies that are utilizing our technology in order to manage their own funds. The IKnowFirst predictive algorithm has received several awards from different entities around the globe, including UBS, NTT Data in Japan, and also the Geneva Wealth Tech Forum. And yeah, here you can find several photos from those events. By the way, by the end of this month, we are going to attend the Hong Kong FinTech Week. So if there are any people here from Hong Kong or China that are planning to attend this event, please feel free to text us, and we shall meet there. We are really proud to cooperate with the leading universities here in Israel. We are delivering fintech and AI courses for several years already. And in our website, you can find also different articles about the INOFirst predictive algorithm from different media channels. In the website, you can find also different reviews that can assist you to identify the package that might be relevant for you guys. We will try to do it also during this webinar. We will try to assist and to introduce the different products that we are offering.
And of course, if you haven't joined yet to our secret WhatsApp group, feel free to do it now by scanning the QR code. You'll find there updated forecast, AI articles, and a lot of interesting things about the market, a lot of updates about the market. So feel free to scan the QR code and to join our growing community.
Okay. We are offering two main products that we are going to discuss in this webinar and to showcase. The first product is basically daily forecast that our algorithm is generating on a daily basis, with the opportunities that the algorithm is highlighting for different time frames, stock opportunities, stock picks for the short term, stock picks for the midterm, and also long-term opportunities. On top of that, we have developed several systematic trading strategies that are using our AI technology in order to build a portfolio and also to create ongoing rebalancing of the portfolio. And we are going to discuss it during this webinar as well. The INOFirst predictive algorithm includes three components. The first component is providing to our clients the opportunity basically to use artificial intelligence to identify the most promising investment opportunities on a daily basis, opportunities for the short term, opportunities for the midterm, and also long-term opportunities. On top of that, if it's possible to use the predictive algorithm in order to receive stock market intelligence on a daily basis, to identify leading sectors, to identify leading regions, leading markets around the globe, and also to get insights regarding the directions of the market. And of course, it's possible also to use the AI in order to see or to understand from which sectors or which regions we basically should avoid, basically. And the last component is providing us customized forecast based on each client forecast. So let's say you are currently holding RGTI, you spoke about Iron or Apple and Tesla. It's possible to get on a daily basis a customized AI-powered forecast for those specific assets on top of the different opportunities that our algorithm is identifying basically every day. So how do we do it? It's not the magic, it's science. This is artificial intelligence. The predictive algorithm is utilizing and digesting large amount of data sets that coming from the entire financial market. We are using data that coming from the interest rate markets. We are utilizing data that coming from the different equities market that we are monitoring. Data that is coming from the commodities market, currencies. Basically, we are trying to use any quantitative data sets that is out there. We are adding the daily data to our stocks database. We are managing database with historical data. And around the clock, the predictive algorithm is learning from the new data that's coming all the time from the market, learning from the historical data and also from the combined data. And by utilizing our technology, the predictive algorithm is constructing the complex network that exists in the financial markets. In the financial market, there are thousands of correlations, and we are using the predictive algorithm in order to build this complex network on a daily basis from scratch without any human intervention. And you are receiving the bottom line of this complex process. You're receiving a simple heat map with the best opportunities for the different time frames that basically you see on the right here. Short-term opportunities for the midterm, and also long-term opportunities. And this process is being done on a daily basis, basically. In terms of the technology, we are combining different AI approaches into one predictive algorithm. We are utilizing deep learning, artificial neural network, genetic algorithm, reinforcement learning. And the goal of this process is basically to focus on the most predictable assets in the market on a daily basis, and to filter out the assets that are not predictable. So if we're taking the S&P 500 as an example of a universe that we would like to predict, every day the predictive algorithm is separating the assets that are not predictable from the S&P 500 and focusing on the most predictable assets from the S&P 500. And we are doing the very same process to every market around the globe.
All right, so how can we read the daily forecast? So as you can see, the forecast comes in the shape of a heat map. The green cells represent long position, while the red one represents short position or sell positions. And we are using actually two indicators to identify the best stocks out of the forecast. But before that, we can see that this specific forecast, we have the time frame of this forecast is the 1 month forecast, which means that those assets supposed to go up in a period of 1 month. And we are using, as said, two indicators. The first one is the signal, which is the number that is located in the center of each and every square. The signal represents the predicted movement of each and every asset, or the potential movement of each and every asset regarding to the others. It's our internal index that moves from infinity to minus infinity, and it's actually help us to focus on the best asset, and provide us the global look for all the assets that we covered. It's actually ranking all our investment, all our assets that the algorithm predict, and we can see that the strongest signal is located on the top left corner of each and every table, and goes down to the right. The bottom right, we can find the most negative signal, which means that this specific asset is supposed to go down in the strongest way. This is the signal. The second indicator that we use is the predictability. This is actually tells us how good the algorithm can forecast or can read the specific asset. It's in Pearson correlation measurement, and moves from -1 to 1 basically, while 0 represents 50% probability that the asset will move to the predicted direction, and 1 is the scale from 0 to 1 is actually, if 0 is 50%, 1 is like 100%, and 0.5 represents the 75% probability that the asset will move to the predicted direction. So basically, those two indicators help us to focus on the best assets from each and every forecast, and we look for the highest values, both for the signal and both for the predictability, to get the optimal results. So we're going to show you a few examples in this webinar, how to use the signal and predictability. And of course, you have other instructions in our website about each and every indicator. So after signing in, you get every morning before the trading start, this 6 heat maps of 6 time frames, as Yaron mentioned. For the 3 days, we have a forecast for 7 days, for 14 days, 1 month, 3 months, and 1 year. Those 6 forecasts you will get on a daily basis. In each and every time frame, you have 10 assets for long and 10 assets for short, and you can pick the time frame that you want to focus on and choose the stocks from within this time frame. And again, this is sent to you on a daily basis. So you get an update forecast on a daily basis. And let's see some examples from the last few weeks about those forecasts. If we are checking, for example, a forecast that was generated on October 12th for a 3 days time frame, we can find those stocks are the leading stock that the algorithm is actually provide us to buy and hold for a period of 3 days. And we can find here stocks such as VKTX, which come from the pharmaceutical universe. We can find RXRX. You can find SolarEdge as EDG, as we can see here, and VTS that jumped 84%. And for the table to the right, we can see the performance of those stocks. And in the bottom of this table, we can find Einor First average, which means the average of those 10 stocks compared to the S&P 500, which in this case, on those 3 days, has performed 1.8%. So this is an example of the 3 days time frame forecast that the algorithm generated on October 12th. So let's see another forecast that actually for 7 days, we can see the time frame on the top left corner of the table, and we can find stocks such as SES, LAC, RGTI, which some of you may know, or Jetty, that is focusing on quantum computers. We can find Iran again that we saw earlier in the webinar, and we can see the results of those 10 stocks. Some of the stocks didn't went to the right direction, as we can see here. For example, Plug went down, but the majority of stocks actually performed really well, and all of this has happened while the S&P, as we can see here in the bottom, is actually went down by 1.4% in this 7 days time frame. So the algorithm has actually succeeded to find stocks that went up while the market in the same time went down. So this is the 7 days time frame, and we can see that as we go up the time frames, the probability indicator that is located on the left bottom of each and every square is actually growing. It's actually higher as we going up the time frames. And here we can find APLD that we talked about early on. We can find here AQMS that is actually focusing on recycling lithium batteries that jumped 131%. And we can find PSM that we all know. And of course, again, the average was 27%, this entire package in those 14 days time frame. And which of you would like the longer time frames as 1 month, 3 months? We also provide a forecast for those time frames, and we can find here in this 1 month forecast that was generated on 15th of September 2025, almost 1 month ago. We can find BITF that we talked about, FCL that jumped by 55%. We can find stocks such as GoPro and PL that moved 44 and 54%. Iran that jumped 100% in this month, and this forecast is actually provide 64% in 1 month, which is, I think, kind of crazy for a forecast, while the S&P just moved by 1.32%. So this is the 1 month. We can also find a 3 month forecast in the algorithm is also providing a 3 month forecast time frame, and we can see the stocks that were appeared here, such as Open that jumped 580%, LWLG, and many other that outperformed the market. US, which is also an interesting stock that jumped 42%. And again, this 3 month period has provided 135%. Of course, this universe is a bit more volatile than the regular stock, but still, we can see that the performance are outstanding for a 3 month period. And of course, we also have the 1 year. The 1 year time frame, and this is interesting to see because on October 16, I'm not sure that a lot of you has actually known Palantir, PLTR, which now is super famous, and this stock has performed 300%. I do believe that the majority of you knows Hood, but the algorithm has put it as one of the best 10 stocks to hold last year, and the stock soared almost 400% in a 1 month time period, and this amazing forecast is actually provide 91% in a period of 1 year. THC, which also a really interesting stock from the pharma universe, and the CCL and the MicroStrategy that was really common in the 2025, and the company that holds the most Bitcoins in the world.
You know what fascinating about that? Palantir and Hood, during this period, as you mentioned, during this year, actually they became S&P 500 stocks. And of course, we saw the discovery process of those assets in the market, in the performance actually. And it's interesting that the top 10, this is a top 10 package, right? Actually, was managing to identify those interesting opportunities over this time frame.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the top packages. Top 10 packages is actually the algorithm chooses the best stock from the entire US market. And additional to those 10 stock, we also provide a forecast for the S&P 500 index itself. As we can see here, we had a positive forecast for the S&P 500 index, which moved 14% in that specific year. Okay, so we want to give you some a taste from the really last forecast that actually was generated in the last few days. This is a forecast from the 17th of October, which is Friday, basically. And we can find stocks such as BG, the global food company. We can find Estée Lauder, EL here, that jumped by 4%, and also PEP, Pepsi, that also went up on last Friday, which was a quite volatile day to trade on. And we can see the algorithm actually gives us stocks to buy for the next 3 days. And another interesting thing to see from this 2025 performance, as we talked about REN and Hood and many other, we can see here that best 10 performing stocks for 2025. And you will see during this webinar that the majority of those stocks was actually identified by the algorithm and appeared in many of our forecasts. Only in this specific forecast we can find the IRN, APLD. We can find also CIFR that appear here, and the EOSE that we saw in the last forecast. Also ONDS, and a lot of those stocks really outperformed the market and did some really amazing performance during the 2025. the algorithm is actually picked along the way. And you're going to see a lot of those examples in this webinar. And not just the volatile stocks, we can also find a really really good forecast for the Magnificent Seven, for example. If some of you trades the Tesla, Nvidia, Google, you can see the forecast from Friday, which Nvidia, Google, and Tesla was quite positive and led this forecast, while Amazon was negative and actually went down by 0.67. This is an interesting forecast to see. You get a daily forecast for the Magnificent Seven. Of course, you can see here just the top 5 stocks and the last one. We cut it off. We didn't give you the entire picture, but of course, in the forecast, you'll see all the Magnificent Seven stocks, and you'll get also an index forecast for the S&P, for the Nasdaq, and Dow Jones in this specific Big 8 forecast. So not only small stocks, we can also find Magnificent Seven and big stocks from the Nasdaq 100 or the S&P 100. And another universe that I think which is really interesting in 2025, it's the AI, of course. A lot of money goes to AI stocks. So we built an AI package in which the AI chooses AI stocks, which is kind of interesting. But those stocks are actually are using AI or have some AI in their operations, and we can see that they are really performing well from 2025. This is an example of 2 forecasts. One is for 14 days, in which you can find Amat, KTOS, MU, NVIDIA, and PSNL, and many other stocks. And this is a 1-year forecast that we can find here. Net, Shop, Palantir, that actually got a lot of volume because of their AI usage. And we are just in this specific package, we are focusing on AI stocks. So whoever of you are fond of this sector, we have a special package for that. Another interesting, and I think really good sector that actually performed amazing from the beginning of the year is the Buzz package that we have, the Buzz ETF. It includes all the stocks that are usually common and appears on the digital platforms or social networks. We have a mixture of the Magnificent Seven and, for example, and many other stocks, AI stocks, or even smaller stocks. We have, for example, here Palantir, we have Uber, we have in this specific package ExxonMobil, Ford, Affirm, Snow, CVNA, a lot of people, a lot of stocks that everybody talks about in the coffee break, SoFi, and to that we added 3 more interesting assets: the gold, the silver, and the forecast for the Bitcoin itself. And many of the stocks that you all talked about, I'm sure, in the last few months, such as Oracle, Broadcom, Tesla, is appearing in this specific forecast. And you get the best stocks. The algorithm is scanning this pool of stock and brings you the best stocks to focus on for 6 time frames. Here we can see an example from September 4th, while we can find here stocks such as Google, Affirm, NVIDIA, CVNA, SoFi that jumped 14%, and also a longer time frames of 3 months in which we can find the Bitcoin, we can find RBLX, Microsoft, Palantir, Hood, and many other stocks that perform really well in those 3-month period. All right. The next package that I want to show you today is the ETF package. I think ETFs are really good for your portfolios because of several reasons. One of them, it gives you diversity in your portfolio. You're not just holding one stock. You're holding a group of 60 or 70 stocks that the ETF hold, and it gives you a geographical diversity. I think you don't just invest in the US. We can see a good example for that in the beginning of 2025. You can see a forecast from March. While the S&P went down and all the US indices actually went down, the algorithms focused on European ETFs, as we can find here. EWP is Spain, Switzerland, Italy, Germany, and many others. Of course, it's the US ETF that you can invest, of course, from the US stock exchanges. But those ETFs are following a European stock or European companies. And then you can also not just focus on the US, and while the American stock exchange might go down, you can diverse your portfolio in other places around the world, if it's Taiwan, if it's China, if it's Brazil, and many other places globally. And later on, you can see in July, for example, this package has brought back the focus on the US technology sector and semiconductors. As we can see here, the stocks is one of the leading sectors that ETF that the algorithm suggested. In the same way, the XSD, which is the semiconductors of equal weight. You can also find here XAR, which is the aerospace and defense sector, and VGT, that is information technology, and EWT, which is actually Taiwan. We can see a really nice, diverse universe of investment that you can use. And of course, you're getting that on a daily basis of 6 time frames that you can choose in which time frame you want to focus on. I really like the ETF package. I think it's really useful and give you a lot of advantages while you're managing your portfolio. All right. Recognizing the guy to the left. We have a special package that calls the Trump package, and it actually supports all what the Trump doctrine is actually supports. If it's AI stocks, if it's technology stocks, if it's aerospace and defense, and energy stocks, and AI as said, and we brought it all together to a one package, and then the algorithm, of course, scans it and brings the best stocks out of this pool of stock. And we can see here a really nice and interesting diversity of the stock picking from a coin, crypto stocks as well, of course. As we can see, Coin, BEITF, Riot, NVIDIA, TSM, and we also have some Israeli stocks inside, as we can see in this case. But the majority of the stocks are focusing on energy, crypto stock, aerospace and defense, technology, AI, all the hot sectors that Trump is actually pushing forward. So we can find it in the Trump package. This is a 3 days example, but we also have a 1 month example, 1 month forecast, in which we can find a really interesting returns. As we can see here, the average of this forecast was 27.6, while the S&P went up by 3.6%.
Yes, and it's interesting to see the diversity. Actually, this is the only package that basically combining different universes into one package, has been mentioned. So on one hand, we are adding to this combined universe crypto stocks, different stocks that related to crypto and Bitcoin, such Wolf and BITF. We are adding semiconductors and technology stocks. We are adding stocks that are coming from the aerospace and defense, and of course, energy. And basically, the AI algorithm is identifying the most promising opportunities from this custom universe. And here we can see a recent example, of course, with Shopify, Wolf, General Electric, BITF, that we actually saw also in the beginning of this webinar, TSM, LRCX from the semiconductors world. So actually, it's very interesting universe that's relevant for this market right now.
Yeah, and it's a really popular package on our webinars sales, and it's available now. We also suggest more, let's say, classic package that's focused on the S&P 500 stocks only. If you don't want to go into wild adventures and want to focus on the biggest companies in the US, maybe in the world actually, so you can focus on the S&P 500 package that gives you the best stocks out of the S&P 500 index. We can find here stocks such as ALGN, MHK, DEC, and IDXX from different investment universe. And we also have it in the longer time frame, where we can find here Hamat, Uber, LRCX, Dell, Disney, Palantir, and of course also outperforming in those two cases the S&P 500 almost by more than double the S&P in the average of those forecasts. So if you want to focus on a more classic stock from the S&P 500 universe, you can stick to this forecast. And the most popular forecast that we have in INO First right now is the top 10, which we mentioned earlier. This package is actually focusing from the best stocks from all of the US market. If it's from the S&P 500, if it's from the Nasdaq, if it's from the Russell. We have a few filters here that the stock has to be more than $2 billion and with a large volume. And additional to the 10 stocks that you have for long and 10 stocks that you have for short, you also get the S&P 500 index forecast, as we can see in this case. So you get best 10 stocks and a forecast for the S&P 500 that you can know the direction of the S&P and choose the best stock out of this forecast. This specific forecast you can get in our website.
Right. By the way, NBIS, APLD, we saw it in the best stocks for 2025 list, as well as other stocks that we have seen there.
Right. And all right, now we're getting to the second question that we asked you in the beginning of this webinar. Which leading sectors from the GICS level 1, from the 11 main sectors in the US, has actually performed the best in 2025? And I didn't see any correct answer so far, because the answer is actually quite interesting. The answer is basic materials is the leading sector for 2025. In the second place, we can find communication services. And in the third place, we can find the utilities. The utilities is 23%. And in the fourth place, we can find, of course, the technology that I assume that the majority of you thought it will be the one who leads this table. And I want to talk about a little bit about this three interesting uh, sectors. The first one is the basic materials, and I think one of the new global competition that we are seeing right now is on rare earth metals, and this is actually focusing on the lithium, the cobalt, and the neodymium. Those three are actually helping buying and building electric vehicles, wind turbines, and of course a lot of defense systems. And we've seen a great conflict between China and the US to dominate those metal, while China is actually is holding the global supply chain of this universe for mining and refining those metals. But the US is want to stay in the race and trying to actually win the Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia and UAE, to also get their attention and get their metals and mining to the US and not to go to the China. And this is actually the new battleground that is happening between China and the US, and we saw it in Trump last 100% tariffs over China that came over that reason. And just by a quick look of these stocks that are actually belongs to the basic materials, the mining and the other rare metals, you can see quite amazing returns. If we'll just check, for example, MP that we saw with 475% from the beginning of 2025. All of the returns that you are seeing right now are from the beginning of 2025, and we can see, for example, MP, that is one of the main producer of rare earth elements. It's a US company, one of the biggest. We can find the TMC. We can find a lot of interesting stocks that soar from the beginning of the year. ALM, as we can see here, with more than 934%, and that's one of the reasons that this sector is actually outperforming the other sectors in the S&P universe, and it's interesting to see, as well as the I Know First. Of course, we also provide a forecast to those metals and mining sectors, XME forecast, as we can see here, and I gave you a little taste from last Friday, while FEM, the stocks that you see here, is actually jumped by 7.6% just on Friday. It's an interesting company, FEAM. In the same way, the utilities, which was the third sector that was outperforming the other sectors in 2025. We can find stocks such as Google and many other stocks, and also have a really good results from the beginning of 2025. And we also, of course, provide a forecast on those stocks. We also have here Oklo, for example, all the new renewable energy and many other interesting companies that are really trendy in the last few months are in this specific sectors of the utility sector. So we also provide a forecast for those companies, if it's generating electricity or clean energy. Those stocks can be found in our utility forecast. We can see examples from the past 14 days for those stocks, and actually performed 8% while the market went down, in this case of the 2 week time frame. Or we can see in the longer time frame of 1 month, also a really good performance the stock that have the highest signal with 4.02 signal actually jumped by 43%. Again, we are focusing on the signal and the predictability as well. They are both important for us to find the best stock. So we can see a really nice and interesting forecast to this rising sector that not a lot of people talked about before this year. And now the utilities is and the renewable energy is one of the hottest sectors that you can find in the stock market. And again, the communication sector, XLC, is also performed really well from the beginning of 2025, as you just saw. And also to this specific sector, we have a special forecast, the communication package, the communication stocks package, in which you can find, of course, the Google, Meta, Spotify, and many other. And in this specific forecast, from Friday, you could find those 5 stocks at the top of this forecast, XLC, that's how the sector is called. And you would find there Google, EA, Netflix, and TTWO as the leading stock of this specific forecast. Of course, you get 10 stocks. I just gave you the first 5 to show you just a quick glimpse of this interesting forecast. So those 3 interesting and new, let's say, hot sectors are available in our first webinar sale that is actually includes 2 packages for $299 per month, in which you can actually build your own package, like build your own deal. Of course, just choose 2 package that you just saw in this webinar. If it's the top 10 or the AI stock, you can combine the ETF forecast with the S&P 500. You can choose any package that you saw in this webinar. And this is a special deal because you cannot buy the majority of those packages in the website. It's just for the webinar for the next 24 hours. You have no commitment and you can cancel it anytime. You can choose any 2 packages for $299 per month and combine your own deal. I think it's a really interesting and good deal to do because you can combine between, for example, the ETF package with the US stocks with the top 10 package and have like a global look and diverse your portfolio. But you can choose any package that you like in this special webinar deal.
Right. You mentioned the packages that are available in the website. Some, as you mentioned, some of the packages actually are only available here, including the XLU that you mentioned, the metal and mining.
Trump package.
Trump package is also a package that's available only here, only today.
All right. The second webinar sale is about our AI-powered portfolio. In some of you doesn't know it yet. I think you should get to know it quickly because it's one of our leading products here in I First, and I think it's the best service that we provide, in which you have a portfolio that was built by an AI every 4 weeks by getting the best 10 assets to buy and hold for a period of 4 weeks. So all you got to do is get the assets that the AI sent you once a month and buy those 10 assets in equal weight and hold them for the next 4 weeks. And the results of this AI portfolio are quite amazing. This was launched on the 2nd of April in this year, and since the beginning, we already has generated 35% compared to 80% that the S&P 500 index did, and almost doubling the S&P 500 performance is amazing, especially in 2025. And again, just by holding those 10 assets on a monthly basis, you don't have to check for predictability or signal. You don't have to check any time frames. You're just getting the best out of the best stocks from all of our packages that the AI chooses for you once a month. And this deal is actually the second webinar deal that it costs $330 per month, paid every 3 months, and you will get this AI portfolio. You buy all the assets at the closing prices and hold it for the next 4 weeks. And I want to show you some of our portfolios from the beginning, from the launch. And we can see here actually that the cumulative return was 35%, again, and producing almost 17% alpha on the S&P. We can see that the first portfolio that was generated on the 2nd of April has made 3.44%, while the S&P went down by almost 2%. So the algorithm has actually succeeded to outperform the market while it went down and producing a 5.2% alpha by choosing those 10 assets. And which assets did he choose? You can find it right here. We can see Palantir here with 35%. We can see Take-Two Interactive, TTWO with 10%, Uber with 8.7%, IDXX from the pharma universe with 1.5%, Microsoft, and also include special ETFs. For example, in this case, EPI, which refers to the Indian stock that went up about 3.2%. Again, the S&P went down by 2%, and many other stocks that you can find here. That was happening in the 2nd of April until the 30th of April, 4 weeks that the algorithm provides 3.4, while the S&P went down by 2%. Next month, we actually succeeded to generate 6.2%. We can find the assets that the algorithm chooses here. The S&P also performed pretty well in that month while generating 5.74%. But we can find stocks that I'm not sure that all of you know. For example, COOP or APH that jumped by 14 and 10%, or holding the XAR, which is the aerospace and defense sector, that jumped by 12% in this specific portfolio.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how many that actually this portfolio includes basically 4 ETFs, and with 4 ETFs, basically we managed to generate, and to beat the market basically.
Yeah, we can find here WG, we can find XAR, we can find EPI and XLU. 4 of the 10 were ETF in that case, and we still outperformed the S&P in a good way. We can find the next portfolio that generated on 28th of May with 8%, while the S&P just did 3.4%. Again, by focusing on AMSC, TSM, the stocks that we can see here that jumped by 14% in this month. Also holding the Nasdaq 100, QQQ, and many other stocks, VRT, which is an interesting stock, by the way, that operates in cooling computer services, computer farms, and also have a big collaboration with NVIDIA that jumped 11.3%. So all of those actually generated 8% in 1 month, while the S&P did 3.4%. And that's not all, because 1 month after it, we succeeded to do 11%. 11% in average is amazing. It's let's say even a monthly return, but again, focusing on AMST, IEST, VRT, UPST that jumped 34%, and the home builders, the home builders ETF that jumped 11.2%. All of those brought us to 11%, and that's quite remarkable. We also had not such a good month. For example, this one, while the portfolio went down by 4.4%, and some of the stocks went up, some of the stocks went down. It could happen, but we are looking at it on a long term, and the market is volatile, so you cannot win every time. But still, 1 month after it, we recovered by 5.5%. As you can see, with interesting stocks. Some of the stocks stayed for the next rebalance. The majority of them are being changed, but still, you can see that this AI portfolio that chooses the stocks for you has a remarkable return. In general, the cumulative returns stand on 35%. The last month was also around 1%, and in those months, the clients that were with us from the beginning already generated 35% from the beginning of April, and the next rebalancing is already actually happened in the end of the last week, but it's still a good opportunity to enter the AI portfolio. The prices in the AI portfolio are pretty good of the stock, so I recommend joining tomorrow. This is a rebalancing day that you can join to the AI powered portfolio and buy the best stocks for the next 4 weeks. And just to hold it for a period of 4 weeks, you can get all that for $330 per month, paid every 3 months, and get the AI portfolio. I think it's one of our best products here at INOfirst.
Yeah, I saw someone that asking questions about the predictability and the signal. Well, for this product, actually, you don't need to consider that because the algorithm is doing all the job for you, building the portfolio and creating also the rebalancing. And please check the chat window. All the deals that Ben is highlighting are available there. So you can easily choose and get the portfolio actually.
Yeah, and not before you hear our last most interesting webinar deal is actually combining the AI portfolio with the package of your choice, and you get all of that for $299 per month, paid every 12 months, and you can enjoy all the worlds. Also get once a month the AI powered portfolio, and to get another package from the package that you saw in this webinar. If it's the Trump package, if it's the AI stock, if it's the top 10, if it's the S&P 500 or technology stock, whatever you like, you can combine between the AI portfolio and one package that you can choose. You get all that for $209 per month. That's our third webinar deal, and it's available for the next 24 hours. You can get the link in the chat and join our AI powered portfolio, which also I recommend joining tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think it's going to be an ideal day for joining the AI powered portfolio. So you need to act quickly on that.
Right. So for those of you, I see several questions in the chat. So I will try to provide additional information. For those of you that are interested in daily opportunities. I basically would, and maybe to test drive the different packages that Ben mentioned earlier, and for instance, to choose the AI portfolio, the AI package with the Trap package, I do recommend to use the deal number one and to get the best opportunities actually on a daily basis. For those of you that are busy and not trading on a daily basis, I think that deal number two with the AI portfolio is the most relevant offering. And for those of you that would like actually to combine and to receive the AI portfolio once per month and also to receive opportunities on a daily basis, I think deal number three is the most relevant one. By the way, deal number one and deal number three, you can change your package selection actually every month, right, Ben?
Yeah, you can change any packages every month, and you can choose which package that you like. You can go 1 month with the top 10 and 1 month with the prompt, and changing the package once a month, and you can get that by any of the deals. And before you're going to ask us what do we suggest, we already made a slide for it. So, Yaron, what's your choice?
So, of course, AI portfolio is my first choice. The second choice actually is the semiconductor, the SOX package, or the XSD, the equal weight semiconductors. And I think the reasoning for that is the signals that we are getting from the semiconductors, and we will be able to see that later on while Ben will share the updated forecast with the best sectors for the upcoming month. What about you, Ben? Why did you choose the two packages that are here?
Of course, the AI-powered portfolio, I think, is our leading product. No question about that. But the second one is the Buzz package. I think today's market is actually, let's say, driven by momentum, and a lot of the Buzz stocks are interesting and trendy. And we can see that the ETF itself has moved more than 30% this year. So I think the stocks that are in are super interesting and belongs to different universe. If it's the Magnificent Seven, if it's AI, if it's utilities. So I think the Buzz package is really interesting. And we also add gold and silver and Bitcoin in this index forecast inside, so it's even more interesting. So the Buzz package, I think, is really relevant.
Okay. Another package that actually is my favorite package as well. You know, I'm feeling like in the All My Sons book. But another package that is my favorite is actually the top 10 package. The top 10 package includes very interesting opportunities for both the long side and also the short selling side. But another interesting indicator that included in this package is basically the S&P 500 forecast. In the case that we have seen before, we had a positive forecast for the S&P 500. However, it's not always the case. And this indicator can save a lot of money. And you can use it as a risk management indicator, basically. And here we can see two examples. The first example is coming from 25th of February 2020. Actually, in this date, we saw a very negative signal for the S&P, as you can see it next to the S&P forecast. We see the red color, and we can see also that the strongest signals actually came from the bottom of this heat map. You can see that the numbers, the relative numbers in the bottom are stronger than the ones that are in the top part of this heat map. Therefore, in these situations, you have two choices, or to actually exit the market for this period, or to take advantage of the negative signals if you can, and short sell those assets. And we don't need to go to February 2020. We have another example, actually, by the end of March 2025. Again, we can see that the S&P forecast in this specific date was negative. We see the negative numbers next to the S&P in this heat map. We see the red color. And actually, the strongest signals came from the bottom of this heat map. And again, we have seen the strong movement of the S&P, the unusual movement of almost 8% drop over this period. And of course, the performance of the stocks that were candidates for short selling positions that appeared in the bottom. Again, use this indicator. If you're getting the top 10, please use this S&P 500 focus indicator. It's really important. It can assist you to understand where the market is going, basically.
Yep, and we also seen in 2025, of course, the big drops that actually happened in February, and we can see that the S&P was colored red here in our forecast. Also, the volatility is VXN, for example, the Nasdaq volatility was in the top of the tables, which suggested that the volatility is coming, and we're talking about this specific point. And then we saw that big drop. And even later on, we saw the negative indicators for the main indices in the US that was also colored red. You can see the S&P 500, the Nasdaq, Dow Jones, and the market went down in the following weeks. And we also saw the same picture in the 2nd of April. Which we saw the majority of the US indices are colored red, and after that big drop of almost 14% by the S&P, and again, the algorithm did identify this volatility before it happened and help us to navigate through this volatile times. So you can use also the long position and also take advantage of some short position if you're trading for short. The last thing we're going to talk about before checking these algorithm forecasts for the next month is our artificial intelligence trading strategy that we offer to our institutional clients. We just give you a short glimpse of how we are actually doing those strategies and what are they containing. So the first strategy that I'm going to talk about is the combined strategy that actually combines sectors from the GICS level 1, which is the 11 main sectors of the S&P, and sectors from the GICS level 2, which are the 24 industries that belong to the S&P. Just to make you understand, if you don't know, for example, XLK, the technology sector, belongs to the GICS level 1, while the semiconductors, XSC, is the industry that belongs to this specific sector. So our strategy is actually combined from the GICS level 1, the GICS level 2, and 5 most predictable stocks from the S&P 500. To that, we are adding a SPY or the S&P 100. And of course, this strategy is a long-short strategy. In each and every month, the algorithm gives us the assets that we should long or short. It's a long short, strategy, and the returns from the beginning of 2022 are quite remarkable, with 585%, while the S&P has generated 95%. We can see the returns in each and every year from 2020 with the 94% up until the 2024 and 2025, that we also outperform the market. In addition to that, you can see the drawdowns. The drawdowns is actually the biggest drop in each and every year that this strategy has, and we compare it to the S&P 500 drawdowns, and in the majority of the cases that we can see that actually the strategy has made a lower drawdown than the S&P, which means that this specific strategy gave us high return with even a lower risk. And we can see the Sharpe ratio and the Sorrentino ratio here to prove that strategy is actually not just outperforming the market, it's also controlling the risk. And we can give you a short glimpse out of how this portfolio looks like. For example, in February, while the market went down by 3.6%, the strategy actually did 2% while shorting those sectors and those stocks. We can see all of those assets were in a short position. The algorithm is also allocating the portfolio and giving the different weights to each and every asset, which is a really important feature of the algorithm. Is not just choosing the best asset, it's also giving them weights, different weights. So that was, for example, February. You can find here April in the same way that we shorted the market, and they actually outperformed it by 3.6%, and a lot of other portfolios in which just by and again the stock weight here is around 20%. The majority of this strategy is built from sectors, from large sectors, as you can see here. For example, in this specific date, in April 30, the algorithm chose the technology sector, and it gave it 31% of the portfolio. In the same time, this sector is actually performed and generate 10% return, which was very helpful to this specific portfolio. And we can see the cumulative return since the beginning of 2024 with 63%. It's a quite amazing return. And we can see the P&L compared to the S&P on each and every rebalance, the times that we do long or short, and the alpha on this on the S&P 500. So this is about the combined. And if we compare it to other leading hedge funds in the US, we can see that the IKnowFirst performance in September was one of the leading performance from the US hedge funds. And also, if we're checking the performance from the beginning of 2025, we are in the head of the table, which is also quite impressive. And as told you before, it was, although it looked like a positive year, it was really hard to beat the S&P 500 in this year. It was a really volatile year with the drops that happened in the April, and with the Trump that is shaking the markets on a daily basis. It's hard to beat the S&P, but our strategy is actually succeeded in that mission.
Yeah, the beauty about this strategy is the ability to take advantage of both sides, long opportunities, but also short opportunities. And actually, as Ben mentioned, the fact that the main focus here is on sectors and industries is actually another advantage of this strategy that also, in a way, controlling the risk for both long side and short side, as we have seen in the drawdown tables, basically.
Yeah, so if there are any institutional clients in the crowd that wants us to fit for their needs any specific strategy or use one of the strategies that we have, please contact us by the website or by this mail that you see on your screen. All right, before that we get to the best sectors to be in for the following month, we're gonna show you quickly the other packages that we have that you can use in the webinar sale. For example, the Robinhood package that holds package from the Robinhood platform, the leading stocks from the Robinhood platform, which is kind of hot lately. In 2025, we saw the numbers. We also have a tech package that focus on just the technology package, a crypto package that focus on more than 100 cryptocurrencies. If it's the Ethereum, if it's the Bitcoin, if it's the Solana, you can find all the leading cryptocurrencies in this package. We have a variety of forms to this specific package. I think more than 4 packages of the crypto packages, so try to see it in our website. We also have a world indices package that hold more than 175 main indices in the world, including volatility indices, US indices, and many others. We have the commodities package that holds more than 50 kinds of commodities. If it's silver, gold, XME, natural gas, oil, everything, all commodities, uranium, all commodities that you can, leading commodities you can find in this specific package. And the currency package, again, more than 75 currencies you can find on this package on a daily basis for 6 time frames. It's available on our website. In the same way, we have a pharma package and European stocks, and every leading exchange in the universe, in the world, we actually have a package for. If it's a Canadian stock, Indian stocks, in which we have a big collaboration with one of the leading brokerage firm in India. We are actually supplying a daily forecast for more than 100,000 Indian traders through Finvazia, the Robinhood of India. We are really proud in this collaboration. We're actually providing a forecast for Indian stock for 6 time frames that is available on their app, as you can see in the screenshots. And now, after we talked about the last month forecast, we saw XME, we saw XSD, we saw the stocks that was leading in this forecast, and now we're going to show you what the algorithm thinks about the following month. What are the best assets to hold for the next 30 days? And we can see, first of all, that still the S&P is still positive. The Nasdaq and the Nasdaq 100 looks pretty good. The stocks, the semiconductors is leading this forecast. We can also see the metals and mining. You can see the semiconductors equal weight. We can see the biotech sector looks also pretty strong with a strong signal. IYW is a technology sector, so is XLK. We can see the TAN, the clean energy, also in the top of this table, although its predictability is a little bit low. We can find the BUZZ with strong signal and strong predictability in this forecast. We can find the XLV, the healthcare universe, the healthcare sector, pretty strong. IWC, it's a micro-cap stocks, also looks pretty good. And we talked about the Nasdaq, we talked about the XLU, the retail also looks quite positive. Aerospace and defense also in the top of this table. So those are the leading sectors for the following month. Semiconductors is still leading the forecast. Technology, clean energy, and XME. Also, we can find it in the top. Healthcare and BAS also looks like a good sectors to be in. And as mentioned earlier, you can find all of those sectors and packages in our webinar sales. If you are combining by 1+1 with $299 per month, that you can choose 2 packages, no commitment, just you can try the different packages and combine the top 10 with the S&P or the AI or the Crown package. This is our first webinar sale.
Yeah, and you can also, by the way, drill down. You know, you have seen the semiconductors before. You have seen the biotech there. You can drill down into this sector and to get, you know, the strongest or the best opportunities from this specific universe by using this 1+1 deal, right, Ben?
Yeah, you can do it by the ETF, for example, and the top 10. In the ETF, you can see which sector is leading sectors, and the top 10, you can find stocks from the specific sector and focus on them. You can do many combinations with many packages for your choice. The second webinar sale is the AI portfolio with the $330 per month paid every 3 months. And join us to one of the leading products that we have generated by AI. The AI is building your portfolio. It's actually giving you some taste of what the institutional and hedge funds, the clients that we have are receiving. You get it in a 10 asset portion that you buy and hold for a 4-week period. That's the second webinar sale. The third webinar sale is combining the two by holding and getting the AI powered portfolio and get one package of your choice. All of this with $299 per month paid every 12 months. This is our third and I think the most interesting webinar sale that we have. All the webinar sales are available for the next 24 hours only. So you have to be quickly on it. All right. Let's answer some questions. What do you say?
Yes. By the way, I see a lot of people that raising their hands. Please use the Q&A window in order to ask your question. We will try to answer as many questions as possible. Regarding, I see people that are asking for the best strategy, how to use the daily forecast. As Ben mentioned, we do suggest to take into account and to focus on the most predictable assets. Even if you're trading, if you're focusing on short-term trading, we do suggest to take into account all the different time frames, to focus on the most predictable assets, to start from the long-term forecast and then to go over the short-term predictions. But the most important tip that I got for you today is to focus on the most predictable assets, basically, when you are receiving the daily prediction. Another important thing, you have the opportunity to receive a custom forecast based on your portfolio. So if you guys have a specific portfolio, and of course you have the subscription, you can send us your list and we can create a custom view of your existing portfolio. And by combining the opportunities that the algorithm is identifying on a daily basis with the custom forecast, you can basically optimize portfolio, basically. Okay.
Yep. And more questions.
Yes. Your turn, Ben.
Yeah, how do I buy the stock from the AI portfolio? So after you get the AI portfolio, you can buy them in the closing price of the day you get the forecast and hold them for the next 4 weeks. Um, that's how the AI portfolio works. It's simple. You actually have a market on a close command that you can do, or try to buy it as close as you can to the last closing prices. But basically, every 4 weeks, you just buy it in equally weight and hold it for the next 4 weeks.
Right, and it's important also to highlight that we are talking about equally weighted portfolio. So you need to allocate 10% of your entire portfolio for each position. And as Ben mentioned, to buy at the closing price, at the end of the day prices.
I think you can see some people ask about the prices. You can see all the prices in the website, and you can find all the packages prices in the pricing table that we have there.
Okay, do you have a package for under $5 stocks? Yes, we do. We do have a package for under $5 stocks as well as under $10 stocks, but also stocks that are coming from larger cap universes such as S&P 500 or S&P 100. Actually, we do suggest, in order to manage and to migrate the risk, we always suggest to combine, if you're focusing on small caps, we do suggest to combine it with stocks with larger market cap. Okay, any additional last question that you would like to address, Ben, or you think, or did we answer all of them?
Yeah, I think we answer all of them, or the majority of them. If you have any other question, please feel free to ask us through the mail and the chat. We'll be happy to answer you. And I hope it was an interesting webinar for you guys, and I hope you're enjoying and try our services. And thank you for joining us today, and I wish you all of luck.
Thank you very much, Ben, for a very interesting and different webinar.
Thank you, Yaron.
And we hope it was interesting to all of you. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.